those early pioneers, you just never know when they're going to show up. I bet you thought when you saw Daniel Boone that he would have a coonskin cap, but he really wore a broad brim hat, just like the one he had on today when he showed up. Well, that time sort of passed, and Kentucky got on a roll. We became the 15th state of the Union about 10 years after the Revolution. That happened over in Danville. They had 10 conventions trying to gain our independence from Virginia, but it finally happened in 1792. When that happened, we inaugurated our very first governor. His name was Isaac Shelby. But he was not only our first governor, he also became our 5th governor as well. Well, again, those guys are so busy that we weren't able to find Isaac, but again, some of those fabulous frontier women from early Kentucky are here today to tell us about Isaac Shelby.
Did I hear someone say Shelby? I assume that everyone knows that I am Governor Shelby's wife, Susanna Hart Shelby. Yes, I remember how I met that wonderful man. We met in Holston when my father moved his family from Virginia to Holston. Now, he and Shelby had known each other for 5 years. So when we moved to Holston, of course Isaac wanted to meet us. When I was about 19, Isaac came marching into town with the military. It was then that I knew I was in love. We were married by Squire Boone in 1783. That same night, our cabin caught on fire, but Isaac was so brave, he organized the bucket brigade to put it out. A year or two later, I had a baby boy, James. At that same time, however, my mother, Sarah Simpson, died. My second child was a girl. We named her Sarah Simpson after my mother. Oh, here she comes now. Hey, Mom.
Ooh, what smells so good? Are you baking bread?
Oh, well, Allison was baking some. You think it is burning? I'll go check on that right away.
While Mom is going to check on the bread, I'm going to tell you about my life. I'm Sarah Shelby McDowell. You all probably know my husband, Dr. Ethan McDowell. We got married in 1802 on December 12th. We had 6 kids, but sadly Shelby, our youngest, died. Well, my life is mostly with the children. Ethan was always making house calls. I will never forget the one that made his fingers. It was 1809 when he traveled over 60 miles through wilderness to Mrs. Crawford's house. When he arrived there, he determined that she had an ovarian tumor. He gave her 2 decisions. She could await her death or allow him to operate and attempt to remove the tumor. Either way, she wished death. Mrs. Crawford agreed to let Ephraim operate. So they made the long and rigorous journey back to Danville. The operation took place on Christmas Day. Mrs. Crawford was awake the whole 30-minute surgery and recited songs to her mind of pain. Nearly the whole town was gathered outside while Ephraim was operating, and some were even threatening to hang him if Mrs. Crawford died. But all ended well, and Mrs. Crawford was up and about 5 days later, and 25 days after the surgery, she returned home. All the doctors of the day said that abdominal surgery was impossible, but Ephraim proved it could be done.
I'm so glad that you ended up with a husband as brave as mine. When Isaac was 23, he helped defeat a group of Indians in Lord Dartmoor's war. Then, early on in the Revolutionary War, he took some men to a captured fort and demanded that they surrender. Now, he didn't have that many men, but the redcoats surrendered because of his calm demeanor and authoritative attitude. The Battle of Kings Mountain was one of his most famous battles because he signaled the attack with the rebel yell. People said that he rode up Kings Mountain as a warrior, and 24 hours rode down for the rest of his life known as Old Kings Mountain. He was unanimously elected May 1792, and during his first term, he made changes in taxes and fundamental laws. He also advanced the Wilderness Road, but nothing too exciting. Because he had proven himself in battles, he was elected for a second term when he was 63. He led 4,000 men on a march to Canada during the War of 1812. After his second term, our friends wanted him to run for vice president. He wanted nothing of it. He also turned down Monroe's offer to be Secretary of War. The worst day of my
glad that Mrs. McDowell showed up as well. You know, his shop was down, or where he did his surgery was down in Danville, Kentucky. Danville is called the city of first. We wrote our first constitution there. We elected our first governor there, and we decided where the first capital was going to be, and that was Lexington. And like Mrs. Shelby said, in 1812, Isaac, at the ripe old age of 63, became our 5th governor and led 5,000 of our troops up to the Great Lakes and fought a battle. Well, at that point, Kentucky was almost finished with its transition, and they were moving into the modern era. Young Henry Clay showed up from West Virginia, or from Virginia, and set up his shop down in Lexington, Kentucky, and started his law practice. But before it was over, he had had quite an effect, not just on Kentucky, the 15th state, but all of the states of the Union at that time. And his legislation continues to affect us today. Henry Clay was called our favorite son.
Hey, Colonel Henderson. Sorry to drop in like this, but I sure hate to miss the play. You know, one thing you left out was about my relationship with the Lord. Most people know about my runs for the presidency and my service in the Senate. However, almost no one knows that I put off following Christ till the last year of my life. I heard the gospel my whole life, but like some modern politicians, I just pursued my own career. However, in the year before I died, I surrendered. I wish more of my life's work had been for the gospel. However, because of God's grace, I'll spend the rest of eternity honoring Him.